I signed an executive order directing Arizonans to stay home, stay healthy, and stay connected.
So Tuesday night at 5 o'clock, the official stay-at-home orders for Arizona went into effect. Governor Doug Ducey making that decision to order people to stay home unless they have to be out for essential business. And we're just one of the states in the U.S. who have these types of orders in place right now. So take a look at this map. 36 states plus the District of Columbia have a stay-at-home order in place right now. And for those that only have partial orders, like Texas, their governors have issued guidelines and recommendations for people to stay home. Florida is expected to start its stay-at-home order on Friday. So a big question for many people, they're asking, how will this order be enforced? I mean, you can still be outside, but they still need to enforce it as officers in our community.
And we have seen different penalties in different states, including fines, even jail time. So to clarify what is happening here in the Valley, Phoenix Police Chief Jeri Williams joining us in studio. Before we get to that, we are so sorry about what happened to your officers. Can you tell us how the two are doing?
So the two officers who were remaining, one has been released to home. So thankfully,
That's
Officer Huber's been released to home.
Yeah.
And then Officer Dowan is still progressing. I keep checking in on them to make sure that they're okay, but their families have been reaching out to us and just telling all of us thank you. Obviously, please keep the Carnicle family in your thoughts and prayers.
Yes.
The immediate family will have a service for him on Tuesday. We'll push more information out on that later on this afternoon.
All right. As far as the stay-at-home order, what kind of directive are you giving to the officers on what they should be doing?
Great question. So we are taking this absolutely seriously, but we're leaning hard with education. What we want people to do is to comply. And in the compliance piece, you're going to stay home, you're going to stay healthy. But what I like about the governor's order is that he's saying to stay connected, because we are definitely creatures of habit who really want to stay engaged with one another. Getting outside, going for a walk outside. I've seen so many family units walking around in my neighborhood and jogging. So that's really nice to see. So we want folks to do that, but we are absolutely taking it seriously. We have community action officers and our community response officers who've been making those contacts when we get complaints. But we've created a kind of a door hanger or an information sheet just to remind people of the importance. But we have to stay on top of this. We have to maintain this 30-day window so we can stop the spread.
Yeah, I'm assuming you were anticipating people just not understanding if they're breaking the rules, so to speak.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, in what instance, for example, would you actually enforce this and give somebody a citation?
So if someone is non-compliant and we get constant and routine calls, I mean, I don't really want to put a number on that, but if I have to keep disseminating resources to the same location, to the same business, then that may warrant a citation.
Okay. I think there's still a lot of confusion about what an essential business is.
Yes.
I've had a lot of messages. Well, is this business? Is my business? I think people are worried that they may get pulled over going to work.
Great question.
Would that happen? And should they have a business card or something on them so they can show where they're going?
So the Phoenix Police Department takes roughly 5,000 to 6,000 calls per day. So are we going to proactively start stopping people to see if they're actually going to essential functions? We're not going to do that, but we are going to respond upon complaint because that's our job and our responsibility, because we do want people to absolutely take this seriously.
So it sounds like most of your work is going to be based on complaints only, not necessarily you patrolling and seeing something out of line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our officers have been very good. So again, we have the community action officers and the community response squad responding. Patrol has some responsibility too, that if they see a large party or a large gathering, there are information sheets that we can give to individuals just to remind them about the social distancing, not having a crowd of more than 10, just to be smart about things and wash your hands and, stay informed.
Mark Brnovich was saying that it's kind of a fine line between people's rights and what they're allowed to do and then this stay-at-home order. Is that something you talk about with the officers on how to handle that?
Well, we've sent out a legal brief and an information message for our officers. At the end of the day, no one wants to have the optic of being the law enforcement agency that has to arrest someone who's trying to maintain a business and or feed his or her family. But we're really leaning hard with education. And actually, PD is practicing social distancing too. I think you all saw on Tuesday when we moved Greg Carnicle's body from the ME's office to the mortuary. It's the first time that we had to space out the way we did. So the whole world is changing because of this. But I'm confident that we'll get through it because as a community, you all are helping us tremendously in the media by getting the word out and about being present. So we're up for the challenge. So let's just all get through April together.
Speaking of that, is it 620 West?
Yes.
That's a big building, a lot of officers coming and going. How do you handle that?
So that's another great question. We're actually looking at other options to spread out our detective unit. We've changed hours. We've gone from a 5/8 schedule to a 4/10 schedule, and now we're looking at even furthering spreading out our employees because, quite frankly, I can't have the department go down either.
Right.
You know what's interesting? I'm listening to you talk about all of the procedures. It sounds like you guys have a rock solid plan, but this is different. It's just so different. So I'm wondering, what are your officers coming to you about as far as their own concerns personally?
Great question. So the concern of we have detective bureaus who are in tight quarters. What are you going to do? We need to increase cleaning in different bureaus that have tight spaces. I will be looking to some of our city departments that may be closed at perhaps using some of their facilities to spread out my employees. And then we have some employees who are some of the non-sworn functions who are working from home remotely. So we're trying everything, but yet to your point, this is unlike anything that we've seen. But again, we're following the CDC advice. We're having routine and regular meetings with our staff and our team members, and we're just trying to stay educated and informed, but also stay present so we can do our job.
Wouldn't you think during the month of April the crime would be down?
Great question.
Well, thank you.
So actually, our calls for service are holding steady. Our arrests are holding steady. We're not seeing a dip in things whatsoever. We still have officers who are still responding. We still have communications operators who are still taking the calls. Things are still happening out there.
Yeah, our producer is telling us to wrap, but I do have to ask you one more question. We've talked to you obviously in some horrible circumstances, and you have referred to the force sometimes as your kids.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, you know, as a mom and as a mother of the force, so to speak, how are you doing, and what do you think about day to day as the men and women in blue are going out on the streets?
So I am amazed 100% of the time at the fact that in spite of what's going on, in spite of the incident that happened on Sunday, I mean, I could go down a list of in spite of, the men and women still come to work. It's my job to try to figure out a way to keep them safe, to keep the morale up, to keep communicating with them. So we've been constantly messaging and constantly communicating with employees since March 5th or so is when it started.
Seems like forever.
It's literally almost a blur. But we want them to have what they need to do the job, because at the end of the day, every person who's an employee of the Phoenix Police Department, sworn and civilian, is committed to serve.
Well, as you know, the community's hearts are with you and always behind you. So
thank you
for your time, and good luck to you guys getting through this.
Job.
Well, it's a first and probably last for all of us.
It is. But
Deep
we are ready to go.
All of us, right?
So thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for being here.